software technologies identifies and prevents over 7,000 new, never-before-seen attacks from compromising our customers' systems. That's 7,000 zero-day attacks from our database of over 90 billion indicators of compromise, which we publish for free, by the way. Other companies use our leadership position in this regard. We'll come back to that point later on, I think. Given the magnitude of cyber attacks and there being no barrier to entry for threat actors to get into the game, we stand our ground in this battlefront. And in fact, we push into enemy territory, as it were, so that we can anticipate their next move. How? Well, at Check Point, we do this by hiring an army of offensive cyber operators, which is a nice way of saying white hat hackers who dive into the dark web, assuming an avatar of a terrorist or a criminal, and engage in cyber espionage to manipulate threat actors into revealing their hand. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are honored that you would share your time with us and entrust us with keeping your organization safe online. My name is Eddie Doyle, and I work as a keynote speaker for Check Point, sharing the very complex technologies and cyber strategies of this amazing organization with you, our valued customers, and also for me to listen to your concerns and needs, sharing them with the engineers in our organization to keep securing your unique requirements. Now, due to the massive growth in cyber attacks each year, I keep repeating it's been an unprecedented year of cyber attacks. Well, if it's the same each year, it's not unprecedented, is it? We need to get used to playing an unfair game. And it's not only you, this audience of cyber professionals, that needs to hear that. As cyber folks, I'll assume you're very much aware of the attack vectors out there. Your home is probably the most secure on your street. It's also our non-technical colleagues that need to understand we'll always be swimming upstream to keep the world safe online. Like a honey badger facing a swarm of bees, we march upstream into our goal while the swarm increases in size every single day. In fact, a great tool to help educate these non-technical colleagues is Check Point's 2022 security report. Now, you can talk to your local rep about getting a copy, or you can go to go.checkpoint.com/secure-report, and you will find a dynamic version there. And it's actually a great tool to help educate those colleagues. There's also some deep dive technical stuff in it too, with these so-called unprecedented ATP, software vulnerabilities, and ransomware attacks that have now been surpassed in media stories for supply chain attacks. We found that in 2021, education and research was the most targeted sector globally, with a 60% increase compared to 2020 and an average of almost 1,500 weekly attack attempts per organization. This is likely due to the stay-at-home school lockdown period that we're just coming out of now, but certainly working from home is here to stay. In these revolving slides behind me, you'll see some examples of ideologically driven hacker operations too, who manage to cause significant disruptions. These types of attacks have become prevalent now. We see this with the conflict erupting between the Ukraine and Russia, with the Ukrainian president making a global appeal for those with a hacker skill set to join the Ukraine in fighting a cyber war against the Russian GRU. And guess what? Within a week of that request, over 250,000 people around the globe signed into a Telegram account to coordinate their fight against Russia. A unique example from last July 2021 was in Iran. The Iranian railway infrastructure faced a cyber attack in which hackers displayed messages about train delays or cancellations on information boards at stations across the country, along with a customer support phone number. But the phone number, however, belonged to the supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei. Now, these attacks severely disrupted train operations and spread fear and confusion among the public. Check Point Research, the group I was mentioning a little earlier, investigated and attributed the attack to the Indra group, which opposes the regime and has been active since at least 2019 using wiper malware. Also in Iran, last October, a massive cyber attack disrupted 4,300 Iranian gas stations targeting the electronic card system, which allows people to buy gas with government subsidies. On the gas pump screen, consumers who try to fill their tank found a notice saying cyber attack 64411, which is again the Supreme Leader's phone number. The incident caused a great deal of disorder, with long lines at the gas stations, and fearing shortages and sudden price increases as the whole country made a run on gas. You might have seen the Colonial Pipelines logo pop up in my slides earlier. We're all familiar with this one, but what a lot of people still don't know is that it was the first time an American critical infrastructure company was working with the US Department of Justice while managing the attack. After the pipeline company agreed to pay the 5 million ransom in Bitcoin, the Department of Justice picked up the phone to the country's hosting servers along the route, the criminals trying to obfuscate their location, of course. And so imagine the full strength of the US Department of Justice calling you and stating that unless you give access, unless you are very cooperative, the full power of the United States will lean down upon them. The last time I spoke to some friends involved in that scenario, they told me that most of the ransom had been returned. And in fact, I think it was returned within hours, or at least they got it back, right? They were able to freeze the servers. Additionally, with Colonial Pipelines, it was not the critical infrastructure or IoT that was attacked. It was the billing department. Like any organization, if you can't bill, you can't sell. And that was a smart move on behalf of the threat actors, showing that they're getting a lot smarter in their attacks to realize that the billing department might also bring down the entire pipeline. Last September, Checkpoint Research uncovered a new attack method against Android users that abuses the device's accessibility services. The attack targeted users of Pix, a year-old yet extremely popular instant payment solution created and managed by the Brazilian Central Bank. With no interaction and no interacting with the command and control, it remained undetected, and the malware transferred the funds from the victim's account to the threat actor's controlled account. Okay, so we're not curing the cyber pandemic, but we can prevent infection. The only way to stop over 7,000 unknown threats isn't by blocking the known threats and then detecting the unknown threats after the traffic has entered your organization. The only way to keep your environment clean today is to prevent and block attacks before they enter your precious ecosystem. At Checkpoint, we now have the benefit of millions of nodes listening all over the globe from over 100,000 customers, millions of end users, and evaluated by thousands of world-class engineers to become the world's leading cybersecurity company. So think of us as an extension of your cyber team. We are deeply interested in solving your problems and have the resources to do it. We've perfected our craft over 29 years in the industry, and the industry recognizes us for it. Almost 30 years of consistent leadership isn't luck, it's full intention. In fact, our organization has been on the cutting edge of technological innovation for many years. And as I say, hiring the best, who also go out and create new companies, some of which we buy back. I'll be talking about some of our acquisitions later on, as I have previously with companies like Dome9, whose founders were early employees at Checkpoint and are now back in the fold, leading some of our cloud technologies. So consider this sort of outsourced research and development. We take our job very seriously. Protecting your brand is a responsibility we share with you. In fact, so much so that we'd be honored to introduce you to our clients to brainstorm best practices. Really, reach out to me or to your local rep and ask for a customer who has overcome the challenges that you're facing. You can go to our website and find those real-world use cases for yourself. Just use the drop-down menus to find a customer in your area, and you can even sort by product and industry that you're in. This is such a great way to pick up best practices, and we learn too from these experiences. Reach out to us. We'll connect you with these real world-class studies, and you'll find this one here, for example, SEB, a financial services company with 1.8 million individual clients and 130,000 corporate clients. They have a network of 113 branch offices to secure, along with a portfolio valued in the billions. So serious business, and obviously a major target for malicious actors around the world. SEB needed to deal with confidential data while at the same time providing their clients with an always-on access to customer account information, and the solution needed to be able to have the necessary maintenance of critical infrastructure while it's being targeted by threat actors and while maintaining uptime for their clients. Add to this the need for scalable security solutions so that as their customers grow, so do their servers, and they need to automatically grow their security with it. And then add even more to this, which is a relentless daily phishing attacks targeting SEB. They'll tell you that in the end, they bought our products called Infinity Total Protection and Harmony Endpoint. So let's get into our product line for a very, very brief overview. Keeping your environment clean of threats and in prevention mode requires this four-pronged approach to technology use. Real-time, or some might call near real-time prevention. It's uber important that your security vendor prove the most minimal delay to delivering clean network traffic. The user can't know we're there. As an example, when delivering sanitized files, Check Point delivers a safe copy in less than 2 seconds. Our threat extraction technologies have been third-party tested to deliver 600 times faster than anybody else on the market. And we'll be talking in a few moments about our Lightspeed firewall, which is an 800 gigabit per second firewall with 3 milliseconds of latency. So I'd mentioned earlier that SEB had chosen what we call Harmony Endpoint, and this is one of our 3 pillars of product category at Check Point. We call our network security products Quantum. Our cloud security portfolio is called CloudGuard. And as mentioned, Harmony secures our users' access control in a harmonious fashion. These 3 pillars are grounded in our Infinity architecture, which you can think of similar to a zero trust network, but in prevention mode and then some. In addition to Infinity, Check Point's massive threat cloud uses over 30 machine learning algorithms to identify those 7,000 new threats we see every day. Coupled with the research from those offensive cyber operators I mentioned at the beginning, we are now confident you can set up a prevention architecture and eliminate unknown threats in near real time with a minimal false positive interruption. By the way, I've got a whole dialogue about false positives. I don't think I'll have time to go over it right now, but they are not nearly as scary as letting in unknown traffic and dealing with the problem afterwards. Well, anyway, that massive threat cloud is also responsible for running automated controls too numerous for me to mention in detail. So talk to our security engineers about these technologies and the unique needs of your organization that these can solve. I'll bet you upon examination, we've got a technology that can secure those needs. And if we don't, well, that's where a well-tenured company like Check Point can look to the marketplace to acquire something new. So here's our latest acquisition, Spectral. Extending CloudGuard offering with a developer-first security, this is a game-changing technology. The great shift left into DevSecOps has been necessary and an expected response to fully utilizing the elasticity of the cloud and the speed at which business can now automate customer services to stay competitive. Built by developers for developers, we bought this company to provide faster scanning of secrets, zero configurations, safer code data, and frankly, an enhanced developer experience. Because remember, if security isn't simple, it isn't followed. Complexity is the enemy of security. One of the traits we were looking for was speed. Spectral's automated tools integrate with developer tools in less than 5 minutes to find anything that shouldn't be in code, such as confidential data buried in the code. This allows for organizations to identify secrets in the code before protection and prevents unauthorized use to nefarious threat actors. Infrastructure as a code, or IaaC, the industry is referring to it, is the process for configuring and deploying cloud-based infrastructure and allowing organizations to eliminate manual infrastructure configurations through the use of automation. That cloud elasticity, right, I've been mentioning. But the challenge is that very often it creates security risks in the massive and complex amount of code out there, making it difficult to monitor for threats. It's a personnel power problem. So IaaC looks to inspect for configuration and security issues, as well as compliance with company policy, and scales through automation. Another great thing about making these acquisitions is that we already know the robustness of the product. Spectral has hundreds of companies of all sizes, including very large enterprises, already relying on them to secure their code into production. Another trait we were looking for is that the technology needs to be seamless, right? Seamless monitor, classify and protect codes, assets, and infrastructure. Seamless because we're looking for things like protection against exposed API keys, tokens, and credentials, as well as identifying security misconfigurations. Think of things like infrastructure as a code scanning or code tampering prevention or hard-coded secret detection, or even source code leakage detection. Spectral supports more than 500 different stacks and is program language agnostic. This allows Spectral to scan code, configure, and binaries and any other materials in the code uncovering issues, I should say, that are often hidden from in plain sight. They are also able to scan public codes, hosting platforms such as GitHub, GitLabs, and uncover shadow resources and security blind spots. Okay, enough about that. Let's take a look at some of our own in-house development. Quantum light speed. We are sourcing new chipsets and technologies to create ultra-low latency firewalls with less than 3 milliseconds and at speeds of 800 gigabits per second. I think this makes it the world's fastest firewall. Now, obviously, the application will work well for lightning traders, telecommunication companies, but we've been surprised to learn how many other applications for super speed our customers require. Data centers need to quickly and easily scale up their aggregate data throughput and secure multi-terabits per second. We see this in other organizations because of the massive growth in e-commerce and work from home demands. Our quantum lightspeed firewalls are custom designed to engineer and engineered to exceed customer requirements and, dare I say, at a very competitive price performance. All vendors say that. So this is what I'll say about price. We are more expensive than most and we're proud of it, right? We're not double, we're not 50% more. We might be around 20 to 35% more than our competitors, but listen, if we can't justify that premium price for a premium product, then either we're not articulating ourselves effectively or you're not seeing the value. So you know what? There are many, many things for us to say on these kinds of talks. And you can tell I've just breezed through this as fast as I possibly can. I like to invite the audience to continue this conversation in public forum on LinkedIn or YouTube. I'm always glad to have a public discussion or even debate about our prevention first philosophy and anything that you'll be hearing from Checkpoint. But in order for us to build a partnership with you and defeat threat actors on a continual basis, community is what is needed. And that's why I encourage public discussion over, let's say, LinkedIn. But even more so, for those not yet understanding our value, you need to look at our culture. And the way you do that is by coming to see us in Israel at our innovation center, where we'll show you the cutting edge tools of cyber and you'll meet with our teams and we'll solve problems together. Listen, I love to close my sessions with this. You're fighting an unfair fight. You always will be. Think about it. Threat actors only need to be right once, and there's no penalty for failure as a threat actor. You just keep making the keystrokes until you're in. For the CISO, you need to be right 100% of the time, and there's massive penalty for being wrong even once. It's really a bastardized version of asymmetric warfare in a sense. So relax, strategize, breathe, right? We're beating back the threat actors most of the time. You're doing well, really. And other departments of your organization need to recognize that too. And I'll tell them for you. So stay tuned for more upcoming events, including security workshops, our user community called Checkmates, our CISO roundtables, and our roadshows. We would love to hear from you. You can easily find me. Just type into LinkedIn, Edwin-Eddie Doyle, Manhattan. I'll be the only guy that comes up. And I can be the guy that helps to talk to your colleagues, to talk to your organization, or to listen to you and liaise you with our organization to solve your cyber needs.